Gentlemen, when Mr. Curtis called me this morning and asked that I speak for him this noon, I commented to him that it was a situation of both regret and pleasure. Regret that he couldn't be here, both for his sake and for Ivan's sake, but pleasure for me to attempt at least to pinch hit for him. So the first step in the procedure is to welcome you here, gentlemen, and that we do, and I trust you've enjoyed your meal. And then the second thing is to tell you that I've done some very strenuous research work this morning, Ivan, and it's been the more strenuous because it's been little time in which to do it, but it's been very complete. And I find the first thing was that Ivan's first job was to return after the Army to Armour and Company. So one can only draw the conclusion that Ivan probably figured that he could wind up being a big cheese in the ham business. And then the second step in research was to learn that in college Ivan majored in mathematics and psychology. Two very important ingredients, they tell me, to the makeup of an egghead. But you've never used either, because I would say, Ivan, chiefly because you've always had a wonderful sense of humor, and anybody with a good sense of humor always has good balance. Ivan's record in General Motors is known to every man here, and I would almost say everyone in General Motors. It's certainly one that we all share a pride in, as you must have a pride in feeling toward it, Ivan. And as we gathered in this informal way here today, we certainly want to say to you, Godspeed and good luck. The thought has been materially put together in a silver tray, which when you pass it, I hope you don't stub your toe with it. And it says on it, and it's all wrapped up here. Here's where the man put it. It is with the signatures of each one of the men here, Mr. Curtis's, presented to you, Ivan L. Wiles, valued friend, respected associate by his fellow officers on the eve of his retirement as Executive Vice President of General Motors, December 30th, 1957. And so we now say to you, as you go from being Executive Vice President of General Motors, that you be Executive Vice President in charge of all retirements and have a hell of a lot of fun. Godspeed, John.
Thank you very much.
I gotta sit down.
Well, first of all, without unwrapping the tray, I'm going to take your word for it. I'm sure that it's beautiful. I'm sure, too, that it will be a tangible reminder of our association together with all of you gentlemen in these past years. I'm deeply grateful to you for your thoughtfulness in presenting it to me on this particular occasion. In the terminology of the missile age, this begins my countdown. For tomorrow noon, I end my years of service with General Motors. And in the case of a countdown, of course, we have a number of procedures which have to be followed out, all of which lead to the final result. Now, here are some of the procedures that I'm going to follow in this 24-hour period. First of all, I'm going to get out our dictionary, and I'm going to eliminate, cross out all words like work, responsibility, objective, perseverance, goals, and the like. They are completely out of my vocabulary from this point forward. Secondly, I'm going to disarm all of our alarm clocks. And no longer on a cold, dark morning at 6:30 am I going to hear the insistent clamor of our alarm clocks. And the third thing I'm going to do is throw away all those tranquilizer pills. Then I'm going to have somebody instruct me in how to read a timetable so that I can make my own reservations in the future. I'm going to start licking my own postage stamp and finding out how it is you open those mailboxes and stick those letters in there. I'm going to practice hailing taxi cabs because they say you got to do that. There won't be any of these General Motors people waiting for me off the plane and the train in the future to see that I get from here to there as I have in the past. And then I'm also going to brush up on my typing and see what it's like to dictate to myself. My good associates presented me with the typewriter this morning so that I'm all set to do that. Then I think the last thing that I've got to do is that I'm going to start toughening up my hands by soaking them in salt water so that I will be able to carry my own bags in the future, too. So that about concludes the countdown. As you may have guessed, I look forward to my retirement with a high sense of adventure. In the words of the poet, I hope that there's no moaning at the bar as I pass from the automotive scene. For I go gaily and unashamedly to join those who, like the lilies of the field, neither toil nor spin. I'm looking forward to the years ahead in the belief that living and making a living aren't the same thing. I feel that this is an opportunity for my wife and myself to exchange part of them at least, our accumulated savings for some rich, interesting, and rewarding experiences in the years ahead. I think that the years of work which I have had are a means to an end and not the end in itself. I don't have the feeling that I'm retiring, retrograding, regressing, or going backwards. To the contrary, I think the proper word to use would be that I'm graduating from business, and that's the way that I feel about it. The timing is excellent. My clients, the dealers, have no further use for my services today. There are former charges of coercion against you gentlemen, not me. Factory pressure and the like have all but disappeared, and that fact has been documented by my good and intimate true blue friend, Admiral Fred J. Bell.
Here, here.
And today, the laws of the land, which the legal beagles, headed by Henry Hogan and Al Power and their ilk, have interposed themselves between the manufacturer and the dealer. And that which the dealer wants today, he can't have because of the law of the land. And so, frankly, these fellas actually put me out of business. And being a man of some sensitivity, I finally decided that this was it, and so I did it. Being a member of the General Motors organization for 30 years has, for me, been a great experience. I'm particularly proud that I can leave General Motors having been a part of that great organization during the period of its greatest expansion and growth. I feel like I've been a part of a championship outfit. I feel somewhat like perhaps an ex-Yankee ball player would feel when he left this team. I don't think there's anything finer that a man could take with him into retirement than to have been a part of the world's greatest industrial organization. And that's one of the richest rewards of my own experience, which I take back with me. The opportunities and the advancements which have come my way in General Motors have, very frankly, exceeded my fondest dreams. I had no idea as a boy, as I went along in life, what would come to me because I was fortunate enough to be associated with General Motors Corporation. I've got great confidence in the General Motors management of today. I said that the other day to some of you gentlemen in the administration committee meeting, but I'd like to say it again here today. Last year there were a few eyebrows raised when we stumbled a bit in 1957. But today those eyes are popping wide open at the reception being accorded our 1958 models. And I think that's the true measure of a championship outfit, because their adversities of a real championship team are only temporary, and that proved to be the case in our particular instance. I'm very high on our product program ahead, and I'm sure that we've got the talent in General Motors and coming up to translate that product program into a continuing sales leadership for this corporation. I think from the inside that you're a great outfit, and I think that some of our friends out the Dearborn way feel that way about it themselves today, because they certainly stubbed their toe in their own planning. I wouldn't forgive myself if today I didn't say something about the man that I've worked directly for some 17 years. I'm sorry that he isn't here today to hear it from my lips, and I propose to say it to him at the earliest opportunity, but that's our good friend Harlow Curtis. I went to work for him in 1941, and despite organizational lines, I worked for him directly until 1958 today. He's an amazing person to me. Under him, I think I've experienced all the action and the tensions and the sense of striving and the excitement and the thrills of the greatest commercial battlefield of all. I found him an intensely competitive person, an aggressive person, the kind of a person who not only gives, but he demands more than your best. And yet, I've had the feeling, knowing that about him just as well as you gentlemen know him, I've often wondered what on earth he ever saw in me, because I think I'm the very antithesis of that man's personal characteristics. And perhaps it's because of my association that I found him to be loyal, kind, generous, and exceedingly tolerant of my own shortcomings. I think most vividly in my mind, the characteristic that I remember and will always remember about him could be illustrated by saying this. In the course of my 17 years with him, I've had an occasion to differ rather violently with him over certain things. And yet I found out that after such disagreement and all the emotional tensions that would arise when you did disagree, and pretty sharply, that in his mind there was never any emotional hangover from that experience. I found out that I could go to his office an hour later or a day later and sit down there, and there'd be absolutely no reference to this other affair where I'd blow my top. And I could do business with him just as calmly and without prejudice, and that to me is the mark of a great man and a great executive and a great friend. I felt that if you have somebody with whom you can vigorously disagree, and yet in the very process not only preserve but enhance your respect for one another, that there is a real man. And I just want to say that I've never worked for a nicer man nor a finer man. And I'm glad that I have this opportunity at the conclusion of my career with General Motors to say that to you gentlemen, because it's the thing I would want to say. I want to say, too, that I'm tremendously grateful to each one of you for your many courtesies, your kindnesses, your cooperation, and above all, your friendship. That I will take with me, the memory of this association, and the knowledge that I have many friends in General Motors. No man should ask for more and he moves into this new assignment of mine. So to each one of you, I'd like to wish you all the very best that life has to offer, with good health and happiness. Good luck, and God bless you.